Hi friends, today we're going to work on the He Is Risen Interchangeable Window Box insert from the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. Love, love, love these inserts, and this one turned out so beautifully. So I'm just going to put all my little pieces on my sticky board, categorizing and classifying based on the colors that I'm thinking of painting them. And then there are two parts to the cross, and so I'm masking with tape the part that is going to be painted purple while I stain the rest of the cross with Van Dyke brown. And then I decided that I wanted to stain the plate piece that goes on the front. It slides into the base of the window box. So I just gave one pass over of that Van Dyke brown from Paint Couture before I started painting the greenery with Autumn Sage. Went ahead and painted that base. This is a chalk style paint, and I used up all I had in that container, but luckily I had another one in an even bigger size. Then I'm going to use my ombre nail sponge kit tool to paint the other pieces. So I used Spanish Sunrise on the little pieces that go in the middle of the flowers. Then I'm using Angelic on the flowers and the words. I'm going to do 2 layers on all of that. And I do use the little sponges twice. I use them until they start fraying and leaving little residue pieces, and then I'll throw them away. Usually about 4 times. Then I'm going to paint the purple on. I decided to go with Kale Sprout for my purple, and I am using a makeup sponge to brush that on. It was really good about, keeping that sharp line on the cross. And then I'm going to use a detailing tool brush and another finer tip round brush to do some accents. I'm going to clean out those score lines on the purple because I did want them to have, a little pop there. So for the accenting on the greenery, I am going to go in with Basil. There I was just doing my second layer. And then French Rose is what I used on the flowers. I brushed it along the edges, and then I would use my finger to wipe it back just to kind of give it more of a ombre effect there. I didn't want like smooth lines. I wanted it to kind of be frayed out. And then I'm using my detailing brush to run along the petal lines within. And then I am just brushing some of that French Rose across my letters, and that is a mineral acrylic. So is the Kale Sprout, and then this is Purple Haze, and I am just using my detailing brush to brush that along the score lines. And then my it's a pretty old frayed round tip brush. I'm just using that along the edges to kind of fray. Now again, I just wiped my finger across it to blend it out, cleaning that with a baby wipe before I do the same exact thing with my basil on top of my Autumn Sage. The only chalk style paint that I used was the Autumn Sage. Everything else was a mineral acrylic or a glaze. This is champagne glaze. I love it. It just adds that little touch of shimmer to kind of fancy things up. So I'm using a fan brush and just gently brushing that along the edges of the pieces. And then I brushed it across the dove and across the purple cloth. So I'm going to use that same fan brush and brush some of the Kale Sprout across that nameplate, then brush a little bit of the French Rose before I brush even more of the champagne glaze. That champagne glaze just kind of muted all of it and gave it that beautiful muted shine. And then of course I'm going to go in with my Debbie's DIY Dark Wax to give it that distressed look. Realized I'd not put any pink on the word is, so I used my finger to add that real quick. And then I just kept distressing all of my pieces, buffing it back with my hand whenever I had it on too thick before brushing everything with my favorite Topcoat Dead Flat. Takes out all the shine where you don't want shine, but it does not take out that champagne glaze shine. You can still see that shimmer through the Dead Flat. Giving everything a really good dry, because the next step is assembly. I'm just gonna get all my pieces off of my sticky board so that they're easier to find. I'm gonna go in with my art glitter glue. I love this glue. It does not leave your fingers sticky. You can kind of wiggle them around, which I did quite a bit on this piece because I, had to keep making sure I was lining things up on that backboard. And it's so detailed that it was, it took some wiggle room and some wiggling to get them right, which I like. I like all the detail. Just placing those flowers because I want to make sure I get the correct flower in the correct place before I start gluing down all of those pretty pieces. I love the soft colors of this piece. And then I played around with where to put my dove. I love, love, love how it looks. Love how it looks in the window. Cannot wait to display it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe.